When the ground swallowed the men of Ridgevale Mine, it didn't rumble first. It just sighed. A sound like the earth exhaling after holding its breath too long. Then came the darkness. 30 men. One shaft. And 100,000 tons of mountain between them and daylight. For most, that sigh would be the last sound they ever heard. But for one man, Lucas Ward, it was just the beginning. Lucas Ward had been a miner for 19 years. He wasn't the strongest, the smartest, or the loudest. But everyone in Ridgevale knew, if something broke, Lucas could fix it. He was 42 with shoulders that had learned to carry more than weight. A quiet man built from habit and endurance. Every morning before his shift, he'd kiss a faded photo of his wife, June, taped to his lunch pail. "Be home by dinner," she'd written on the back years ago. He never missed it. Not once. That morning, the sun was still fighting to climb over the Appalachian ridgeline. The air smelled of coal dust and dew. Lucas parked his rusted Ford beside the others and joined the line of men heading down the shaft. 30 in all. Laughter echoed through the metal cage as it rattled down into the belly of the earth. Old songs. Dirty jokes. Familiar fears hidden under noise. But halfway down, the cage shuddered. Everyone went silent. The lights flickered, then steadied. Just the generator, someone muttered. No one knew how wrong they were. They were 3 miles in when the tremor hit. At first, it was just dust drifting down like lazy snowflakes. Then the sound came, deep and hungry like thunder trapped underground. "Get to the main tunnel," the foreman shouted. But before the words finished echoing, the walls buckled. Lucas dove behind a support beam as the ceiling gave way. A roar swallowed everything, shouts, metal, bone. When it stopped, the world was silent again. Lucas coughed, tasted dirt, and pushed himself up. The tunnel behind him was gone. So were half the men. "Anyone hear me?" he yelled. A few voices answered, scattered, weak. One belonged to Eli Turner, the youngest miner, just 21. Another was Hank Weller, the old-timer who'd worked every inch of that mine. They were alive. But barely. When Lucas clicked on his headlamp, the beam hit dust so thick it looked like smoke. No air moving. No way out. 30 men had gone down. 17 were gone within the first hour. They found an air pocket deep in the service corridor. Cramped, jagged, the ceiling just inches above their heads. 7 men now: Lucas, Eli, Hank, Miguel, Dean, Porter, and Finch. No one spoke for a long time. The silence pressed harder than the rock. Finally Eli whispered, "We're gonna die down here, aren't we?" Lucas didn't answer. Not yet. He checked his watch, stopped at 9:47. That was the moment the mine collapsed. He forced himself to think. Air first. Then water. Then food. He'd survived cave-ins before, but nothing like this. Nothing this deep. Hank sat against the wall, clutching his chest. His breathing was ragged, uneven. Heart trouble, Lucas knew. The old man wouldn't last long without meds. "We've got emergency rations," Porter said. 2 days, maybe 3. And air? Depends how many of us keep breathing. They all went quiet again. Up top, Ridgevale was chaos. Families gathered at the entrance, police lights flashing against the dark mountainside. June Ward stood in the cold, her hands trembling around a cup of untouched coffee. She kept her eyes on the shaft as if staring long enough could bring him back. Reporters called it the Ridgevale disaster. But June didn't care what they called it. She just wanted Lucas to come home. Rescue teams worked around the clock, drilling through unstable rock. Each hour felt like 10. Every noise, every groan of machinery, sounded like the earth deciding who to keep. Back underground, Lucas counted breaths. He could hear the rock settling above them, tiny cracks like bones shifting. The air was thinning. He had to do something. "There's a maintenance vent about 300 feet east," Hank croaked. "Old shaft, blocked years ago." Lucas looked toward the dark tunnel. It was narrow, half collapsed. But it was something. He tore a strip from his shirt, tied it around his mouth, and started crawling. "Where are you going?" Eli called after him. "Finding daylight," Lucas said. He moved inch by inch through the rubble, feeling for fresh air. Nothing. Then, faintly, he heard dripping water. A crack in the rock, leaking from somewhere above. He pressed his ear to the stone. And for the first time in hours, he heard wind. Weak, but real. When he crawled back, the others looked at him with hollow eyes. "There's a vent," he said. "But it's blocked." Miguel shook his head. "We can't move that kind of rock." Lucas met his gaze. "We have to. Or we die right here." They worked by headlamp, shovels, and bare hands. Each strike echoed like a heartbeat. Sweat mixed with coal dust. Time stopped mattering. But after hours of digging, Hank collapsed. His breathing turned shallow, eyes distant. Lucas knelt beside him. "Stay with me, Hank." The old man smiled faintly. "Tell June, you'll be home by dinner." Then he was gone. The men froze. No one spoke. Lucas reached out, closing Hank's eyes. "Cover him," he whispered. Then he picked up the shovel again. It wasn't just rock they were digging through anymore. It was grief. 3 days passed. No food. Water from the rock crack. Muddy, bitter. Eli's lips were cracked and bleeding. Dean mumbled in his sleep, calling for his kids. Lucas stayed awake, counting each breath. He'd stopped feeling fear. Only purpose. Then a sound. Faint. Mechanical. A drill? He pressed his ear to the wall. Yes, a vibration, steady, rhythmic. "They're digging for us," Eli said, tears in his eyes. Lucas nodded. But the sound faded after a few minutes. Then silence again. They were close, but not close enough. By the 5th day, tempers broke. Porter snapped first. "This is your fault, Lucas. You said go east." Lucas didn't argue. He let him shout, let him get it out. When Porter's voice cracked, Lucas said quietly, "I said live. I didn't say it'd be easy." The men turned on each other, fighting over water, light, even space. Lucas didn't stop them. Sometimes men needed to break before they could bend. Later that night, while the others slept, Lucas crawled back to the vent. He pressed his hand against the rock, and felt air again. Stronger this time. If he could widen it just a few more feet, they could reach it. But the rock shifted under his hand. And in a blink, the ceiling dropped. When he woke, his leg was pinned. Pain surged through his body. He bit down on his sleeve, trying not to scream. It took him an hour to free himself. But he did. He always did. Above ground, rescuers hit solid granite. They couldn't reach the main shaft. Until one engineer noticed faint vibrations on a seismic sensor. Morse code. 3 slow taps. 2 fast. 3 slow. The pattern repeated for hours. "Someone's alive," the foreman said. They redirected the drills toward the signal. If they were right, they'd break through in 2 days. If not, they'd bury them for good. Back underground, Lucas knew the air was nearly gone. He tore the lining from a jacket, built a crude filter using coal dust and cloth. It wouldn't last long. Miguel was delirious now. Dean was silent. Only Eli stayed awake, watching Lucas like a child watching a fire burn down. "If we don't make it," Eli said, "tell them I wasn't scared." Lucas gave a faint smile. "You'll tell them yourself." But deep down he wasn't sure. The drilling noise grew louder. Then, crack. A thin beam of light pierced the dark like a blade. Eli screamed. Lucas didn't move. He just stared at the light until his eyes burned. Then the wall gave way. Voices. Hands reaching through the hole. "Hold on. We've got you." Lucas grabbed Eli's arm and pushed him toward the opening. "Go." Eli hesitated. "What about you?" "Go." Lucas shouted. The wall crumbled further, stones raining down. Eli crawled through to safety. But before Lucas could follow, the roof caved in again. Thus, silence. Darkness. Above ground, Eli was pulled from the rubble screaming Lucas's name. He kept telling them, "He's right behind me." He was right there. But when rescuers broke through again, they found only rubble. 6 men came out alive. 24 never did. Lucas Ward's body was recovered 5 days later. He was found near the vent, his hands outstretched toward the opening as if still digging. June received the news on a Sunday morning. She didn't cry right away. She just stared at the mountains, whispering, "He made it home." A year after the collapse, Ridgevale Mine was sealed forever. But in town, people still spoke his name. At the memorial, Eli stood on the small wooden stage. He wasn't the scared kid from the tunnels anymore. He was a man who had seen death, and learned to live because of it. He took the microphone, voice trembling. "Lucas Ward saved my life. He told me once, courage isn't loud. It's what you do when nobody's watching." He never made it out, but he gave the rest of us a way through. The crowd stood in silence. Even the wind seemed to pause. Some men live to be remembered. Others live so that others may remember what life means. Lucas Ward wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. He was just a man who refused to stop digging. And in that refusal, he gave 30 men, and one world above them, something stronger than hope. He gave them faith. If this story moved you, don't forget to share it. Because sometimes the quietest heroes leave the deepest echoes.